boy. Yeah, boy.
You are now watching Create a Steady Hustle with Liquid Cash.
In business and in life, it's all a game. But you got to remember, you write the rules, but you don't create the laws. And what I mean by the laws, the universal laws, not the laws of man, the universal law, like the law of gravity. We all know that law exists. How do you know? Walk off of a building, see if you don't drop. But the law of gravity is superseded by the law of lift. Yeah, this explains why airplanes fly, birds fly. The law of lift supersedes the law of gravity. And there's another law, the law of attraction. But the law of attraction is superseded by the law of vibration. So you got to understand, life is a game. You create the rules, but you do not create the laws. You have to do your research and find out the universal laws. And that's how you navigate through life and you'll be able to win in this game of life. But it's important to know the score. In any game that you're playing, you have to know the score. See, in order to win a game, there's two things. That's very important for you to know. You got to know the rules and you got to know the score. When a basketball player is going up and down the court, they always look at the score because they can tell if they're up or they're down 2 points. And that lets them know if he need to score a 3-pointer in order to win the game or a 2-pointer in order to tie the game. In your life, you need to know where you at in your relationships, in your finances, and everything that you got going on. You got to know the score because you get what you think about most of the time. If you know the score, you think about the score, it makes the score goes up. Let me break it in layman's term. If you know how much money you have in your bank account to the exact number, just by you thinking about it so much, it starts to increase the amount. It brings more into your life because you get what you think about most of the time. So life is a game. Know the score. Think about it. And just by thinking, it causes the score to raise up. I have to repeat these things because through spaced repetition is the way you learn. And we are teaching. I want to teach you some things that I've learned. I'm giving you some information that I've used in my life. And that's what it's all about. Motivation, information that puts you in the right location or where you need to be. In the game of life, you got to know the score. And at a point in my life when I was in New York City, I was, like I said, I was hustling a lot in New York City. I was really, really on my grind. I strongly believe New York City made me who I am, made me a man. And yeah, I was never content. I always wanted more. And at the time, New York City wasn't the best place to live because it was very expensive and the quality of living wasn't that good. You know, before I decided to move, I was living in Harlem and on the east side. And I was renting a room. My roommate was a crackhead, by the way, you know. And, you know, imagine waking up every day and your roommate is a crackhead. In all my beginnings throughout my life, I've always been around people that was involved with drugs, you know. Drugs was a very important, well, not important, but a very prominent figure in my life. Even when I lived in Far Rockaway and I was renting a room in my at one of my aunt's downstairs apartment units, other guy that was renting a room was a heroin addict. He was a heroin dealer and a heroin addict. I'll tell you a little bit more about that story a little later, right? But let's get back to this story in Harlem. My roommate is a crackhead. I'm living there, you know, and it's just uncomfortable environment. It's in the hood on the east side between 126 and 125th. And it was very uncomfortable. He was a crackhead. I'm thinking in my mind, like, damn, is my thing safe when I leave this motherfucking unit, this place, this room? Is he gonna break in my room and steal my shit? You know, it was just not cool for me to be there. And at that particular time in my life, I needed more. And remember, I was an illegal immigrant, so I couldn't get a regular apartment like most people can. So I had to deal with what I had to deal with. But I needed to move. I needed to go somewhere else where it's a little bit more lenient, because New York City, at that time, they were strict on renting places to people that didn't have their documents together. So I moved to Atlanta. And Atlanta was a little bit more lenient. You use a CPN, you get right in. They ain't tripping. So that's how I was able to get to in Atlanta and live in Buckhead. I had the money, but I didn't have the documentation to provide in order to have the living situation that I needed in New York City. But in Atlanta, like I said, they a little bit more lenient. You get a CPN, you can do your thing. So I lived in Atlanta. I had about 60,000 on me, maybe 70,000. My only objective was to hustle and get this bread up. I needed to get this money. I didn't give a fuck about a car. My BMW, 3 Series BMW that I had, I ended up selling that, buying a Jeep. That ended up breaking down. I'm in Atlanta with no car. As soon as I got to Atlanta, matter of fact, as soon as I got to Atlanta in the Jeep, that shit ended up breaking down, never working again, and I ended up just not having a car. But at that time, my hustle was in and out of state. I was renting cars all the time, so I was in and out of state, moving and grooving. But I was stacking. This was my life, because I realized I control everything in my life. I needed to stack because I needed to know I needed more. 70,000, 60,000 wasn't enough for me. Now, to some niggas, that's a lot. They want to, to have 70,000, they're going to live life, they're going to ball out till they fall out. That's cool. But for me, that wasn't enough. I needed more. So I'm stacking and stacking and stacking. I'm hustling. I'm driving from one state to the next. I'm moving and grooving. I'm doing my motherfucking thing. That was just how I was moving at the time. And my stash went all the way up to 150. Remember, I told you I knew the score. I knew how much money I had. I knew I only had about 70,000. So I wanted about 150. See, in setting the rules up, you got to set the rules up for you to win. See, I could have been thinking about 200,000, but nah, let me think about 150, because I'm closer to 150 than I am to 200. So I say that to say, don't be thinking about $1 million or making 10,000 a month when you haven't even made 5,000 a month yet. If you only make 3,000 a month, think about making 5,000 a month. When you make 5,000 a month, then start thinking about 10,000 a month. You got to take baby steps. You can't jump too far, because your dream got to be in a sweet spot. It got to be big enough to excite you, but small enough that you believe and you know that you can get it. Yeah. It's the Pirates of the Caribbean. Niggas can't fuck with me, man. That boy. It's Likquidcash. I need it all out the stash. I'ma get rich or I'ma get deported. Riding cross country, my Ford Taurus.